the daughter or son is getting a little restless, don't hesitate. Sometimes it's just a matter of feeding them a little halava or puri, and that kind of grounds them in and settles them. And it's also a really nice day for a snowball fight. In the spiritual world, there's definitely snowball fights. Your hands don't get numb though. But there's the snowball fights. When I see the kids, when I see my kids in the backyard going for hours, I was thinking, this has to be going on in the spiritual world, but in a form that is beyond what we can imagine here. It's pretty exciting. Snowball fights, making igloos, making caves, and just seeing what Krishna is doing with his coward boyfriends regarding snowball fights. And someday you all may find out what that looks like. So today we're gonna share a little bit about a significant day that happened yesterday. It's called Gopashtami. So 0 to 5 years old, it's called the Komar age. When kids are 0 to 5, it's called Komar. And then onward, it's called Poganda. So at that time, Krishna, he just turned 6. Krishna's eternal, but in his Boma Lila, when he turned 6, he was given his own set of cows. So before that, he would take care of little calves. And so we're going to share a little bit about the significance of cows and why they're important, and how it's more than just what people think of, like, oh, the Hindus worship cows. Kind of the practical understanding why it's such a significant part of the Vedic culture, cow protection. And yesterday was Gopashtami, the 8th day of the moon, and Krishna starting to herd his own cows. So we'll read a little selection from Krishna book, just such a beautiful description of the environment of Vrindavan. And then with that, we have a good friend, a few places in India, but this is in South India, my friend Chaitanya Mohan. And I haven't met him yet, but we've just been corresponding throughout the years. But some time ago, he sent me about 4 cases of this beautiful gobar's cow dung. And you usually wouldn't think you would make incense with the dung of an animal, right? It's usually kind of repulsive when you think of the stool or the excrement of an animal. But the cow dung incense, there's 2 smokes that Prabhupada really liked. Rupanuga Prabhu shared, he really liked frankincense. When devotees would burn frankincense, he really liked it because it purified the atmosphere. And he liked the burning of cow dung or with ghee, the smoke. The smoke is very purifying. And it's really nice. We offer it to the deities in the morning. And many people today are into smoke, right? They're smoking all kinds of things that are intoxicating. But this cow dung smoke is very purifying. You can even burn it on the altar. And so I've been offering it every day, and it's such a nice aroma. You just light it like that, and then you can offer it to your deities. It just creates such a nice smoke. And what's burning in here, here's the Ayurvedic herbs. Nagar Mota, Jata Masi, Maida Lakari, Kapur Kachri, Google, is that like a gum? Rosemary, thyme, davanam, gum resin, sandalwood dust, gobar, sambrani, sandalwood oil, and jadi patri. So there's no wood in here, and there's no synthetic oil, so it's not carcinogenic. There's no wood stick in the middle that burns, because once you burn wood, it becomes carcinogenic. So it's so nice. And with Gopashtami, every year I like to give a little support to one of my gurus, Kumarupa Prabhu. He developed a really nice project. You can put it in the back next to Prabhupada. Yeah, we'll have this burning during class. It's okay to inhale. This cow dung incense is actually Ayurvedic. But yeah, every year I send a little donation to a project called Care for Cows. It's a project in Vrindavan, Kumarupa Prabhu started. Basically during the month of Kartik, this was before he passed away over 15 years ago. And he did a vrat, he took a vow that every day on Kartik he was going to feed the cows. He lived in a little ashram, he had a small little 8x10 room with tulsi growing in his courtyard, and every day some cows would come to his door and he would feed them. So during this month of Kartik, he made this vow that he would feed the cows every day. And after the Kartik month was over, the cows were still coming to his door. They were like, knock, knock. And he was like, oh, Kartik's over, but they're still coming. So we continued to feed them. And then more cows were coming. And he started seeing that there's a lot of injured cows, neglected cows throughout Vrindavan. So then he had the realization that Krishna revealed to him. He was a Gurukul teacher, headmaster for many years, and then he saw this service being revealed to him. So then he created a team, and they would just go around Vrindavan, and any cows that were hit by cars or neglected or just abandoned, they would take them in and nurture and care. And after some years, they had over 500 cows, various goshals. And then one of his students that was with him since he was very young, Nandulal, now he's in his 40s, just a few years younger than me, and he's taken up the legacy to continue on, just pretty much gave up everything, lives in Vrindavan with his wife and 2 daughters, and does full-time seva for care for cows in Vrindavan. So whatever donations we get from selling these incense, we like to send to care for cows on this week of Gopashtami. So on that note, let's hear a little from the light of the Bhagavad, the significance of cow protection, and how in the Vedic culture there's nothing that's superficial. Just like Krishna, he challenged Indra, like, we're not into superstition, we're into something practical. Govardhan Hill has grass, has water, Antayamadiri Abala Haridas Savaryo, Yadrama Krishna Charanasparasha Pramoda, it's got beautiful caves, it's an amazing place to have the cows eat the grass, provide milk, provide cow dung, etc. So very practical ceremony. So similarly, the worship or the honoring of the cows is very practical. Why? Because we're not in it, we're not in this world just for me and mine. The environment is around us, and especially a lot of times we'll even generally say Mother Earth, right? So Mother Earth involves protecting the dolphins, protecting the trees, protecting the birds, dealing with oil spills, right? So when we say like Earth Day or Mother Earth, it's kind of all-encompassing. So Mother Earth comes in the form of Gomata, of cow, and then the father Dharma, the bull. So it's a very practical way to relate ourselves to the greater environment around us. So we'll read from the light of the Bhagavad, and we'll recite some Mangalacharan mantras. You can appreciate our lineage of masters, set your sankalpa, expressing our gratitude to our acharyas, to our predecessor teachers and masters, to Lord Chaitanya, to Radha and Krishna. Bring your hands, if you'd like, to Anjali Mudra. Yeah, Anjali is like prayer, right? Expressing our gratitude. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Gopashtami Mahotsava Ki Jai. If anyone was here yesterday on Gopashtami, there's a whole pastime of the gopis having to cross some water, so they hike up their skirts and they dress up as cowherd boys. So we dressed yesterday Radharani. She was dressed with a turban. She had a rope for herding cows and a cowherd stick. And Radha and Krishna were dressed in the mood of gopas. So it's a very sweet day honoring that darshan. Okay. So the verse is text 27 from Light of the Bhagavat. This is from the chapter called Description of the Autumn Season. After good rains, the grazing ground for the animals was full of green pasture. So we just had good snow, clearing the air. Snow acts like a scrubber. You notice after it snows, the air is even cleaner than after it rains. If you look at the air index, because the snow acts like a scrubber for the atmosphere. It's such nice air afterwards. But the grass isn't growing after the snow as much as the rains of Vrindavan. After good rains, the grazing ground for the animals was full of green pasture, and both the bulls and the cows sat down on the grass, fully satisfied. The cows, followed by their calves, appeared tired of grazing because of full milk bags. Calmly and quietly, the cows and calves rested and ruminated, chewing their cud. Who's ever lived with cows, it's just such a tranquil sight, right? They're just like, they're moving that lower jaw and just chewing the cud, and all the digestive fires are going off in their four stomachs. Srila Prabhupada says, protection and grazing ground for the cows are among the essential needs for society and the welfare of people in general. The animal fat required for the human body can be well derived from the cow's milk. Cow's milk is very important for human energy, and the economic development of society depends on sufficient food grains, sufficient milk, and sufficient transportation and distribution of these products. Lord Sri Krishna, by his personal example, taught us the importance of cow protection, which is meant not only for Indian climate, but for all human beings all over the universe. So again, people say that's a universal principle. Srila Prabhupada's saying it here. It's beyond just the world, but all over the universe, not just something limited to India or a certain religion. Less intelligent people underestimate the value of cow's milk. Cow's milk is also called go rasa, or the juice from the body of the cow. So when you're having some hot milk tonight, you can remember this word. Please repeat, go rasa.
Go rasa.
Go rasa, the juice from the body of the cow. Like Prabhupada would say, instead of cutting the throat of the cow and drinking the blood, just let them eat the grass and then protect them, and they're happy to give milk. So this is the go rasa, or the juice from the body of the cow. Milk is the most valuable form of go rasa, and from milk we can prepare many important valuable foodstuffs for the upkeep of the human body. The killing of cows by human society is one of the grossest suicidal policies. So this suicidal policy, the wars, the friction, the tension, we can get into trying to analyze all the politics and all the details of social, economic, political issues. But Prabhupada's actually even bringing it back farther, why those conflicts are arising. What is a suicidal policy? The killing of cows by human society is one of the grossest suicidal policy. And those who are anxious to cultivate the human spirit must turn their attention first toward the question of cow protection. So interesting. Prabhupada's basically saying, those who are interested in cultivating the human spirit, self-realization, he's not saying do some pranayam and dhyan, or do some puja ritual, or chant mantras, or master the Vedic literatures, philosophy, or do some intricate, disciplines, mentally, physically. He's saying, what's the first thing to turn your attention? Because you could do all that, but if there's not this basic attention given to this principle of cow protection, then there's no foundation. So Prabhupada's saying, those who are anxious to cultivate the human spirit must turn their attention first toward the protection towards the question of cow protection. And I think for a lot of us that didn't grow up maybe in a yogic or Vedic culture, I remember being around 17, sophomore, junior in high school, and then watching a video of People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA. And it was pretty graphic, very intense, right? It showed like the slaughterhouses, what's going on with the chickens and the pigs and the cows. And when I saw that, next day, that was it. I was like, I didn't need to I just did it. I heard the word vegetarian and about animal rights, but it was quite foreign to me. But when I saw that as a teenager, I got home and said, Mom, I'm not eating that anymore. I love you, your cooking's been helpful. So it took a little while, right? Cutting down the red meat and chicken and fish and eggs, and then just, I was like, I don't want to support that. And it was just like overnight, like, wow, no one educated us at school. We never saw this till on our own. We were researching it on no teachers, there was no culture around us that was showing what was happening. And so right away, where did our attention go? Hey, let's at least start with not supporting the slaughterhouse of cows. Right away, that's where we went first. So interesting how Prabhupada's saying, those who are anxious to cultivate the human spirit must turn their attention first toward the question of cow protection. And it's quite a common example. I experienced many people, their whole yoga journey, spirituality kind of started maybe with environmental or animal rights kind of activism. It was like the door opener towards that like journey of introspection. If we really want to cultivate the human spirit in society, we must have first-class intelligent men to guide the society to develop the finer tissues of our brains. We must assimilate vitamin values from milk. Devotees worship Lord Krishna by addressing him as the well-wisher of the brahmanas and the cows. Namo Brahmaya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. The most intelligent class of men who have perfectly attained knowledge and spiritual values are called the brahmanas. No society can improve in transcendental knowledge without the guidance of such first-class men, and no brain can assimilate the subtle form of knowledge without fine brain tissues. For such important brain tissues, we require a sufficient quantity of milk in milk preparations. So the ancient yoga culture, they understood the value of milk. For example, the value of celibacy. It wasn't just this like rigid, stone-like life of hating, sex or just drinking milk just because it's like a ritual thing. No, they knew that all these substances that are naturally within the body and that are coming also from the environment nourish the finer brain tissues. Even just for health and well-being, they understood. So things like protecting cows, or observing celibacy, or rising before the sunrise, knowing that there's a certain energy in the atmosphere, Brahma Muhurta, that was good for spiritual life. And that if you miss that opportunity, much more energy is drained and the consciousness is not as sharp. So all these little nuances there were there to kind of inspire well-being on every level, mentally, physically, and spiritually. For such important brain tissues, we require a sufficient quantity of milk in milk preparations. Ultimately, we need to protect the cow to derive the highest benefit from this important animal. The protection of cows, therefore, is not merely a religious sentiment, but a means to secure the highest benefit for human society. So these 2 points Prabhupada made here. Hare Krishna. If the children are a little hungry, they're getting a little anxious, you can bring them downstairs and they can have prasad. Chaitanya Dev is more than happy to make them a plate. So these 2 sentences here. The killing of cows by human society is one of the... The killing of cows by human society is one of the grossest suicidal policies, and those who are anxious to cultivate the human spirit must turn their attention first toward the question of cow protection. And then this final line, the protection of cows, therefore, is not merely a religious sentiment, but a means to secure the highest benefit for human society. So spiritual teachers like Srila Prabhupada, they were very practical. They were thinking, what is going to be the greatest benefit for human society? And what can we address? They saw the suicidal policy of the world at large. They saw what was going down. They could see so far, even in the beginning of Kali Yuga, the sages of Namasharanya, they could foresee what was going to happen in Kali Yuga. So they came together, not just for their own mukti, not for their own liberation, but they saw there's going to be so much suffering in this Kali Yuga. The residents, the animals, the earth, so much degradation. What can we do as yogis, as sadhus, as philosophers, as dedicated spiritual practitioners? What can we do for the benefit of human society at large? So on this Gopashtami day, it's such a nice opportunity for us to somehow connect ourselves with this principle of Go Raksha, or cow protection. Now we may say, well, I live here in Denver, and hardly any of us, the only time we might see a cow is if we're on I-25, or if we're on the I-70, or we're walking through some countryside, we might see some cows. But as far as like daily association with cows and cow protection, we might ask ourselves, how can I be involved? And we can't all just pack our bags and move to a farm somewhere and live with cows. Some of us have. I lived on a farm for about 6 years with cows, and I greatly miss it. But we can stay connected by researching maybe some projects, right? Just like Care for Cows. It's a nice project. Hundreds of cows they have in Vrindavan. Or we may have some friends or people around the country, around the world, who have some cow protection project, and maybe they, can use some support. So in whatever way we can support, either monetary-wise, or we can sponsor like hay or grass. There's little ways that we can stay connected. And it's not very difficult. We have computers now. You can do research. And like I was sharing, there's this beautiful Care for Cows project. And you give a little bit, and that way you feel some connection to the cows. And in your own life, you can practice smaranam, remembrance, that when we take prasadam, like today there's going to be sweet rice, or maybe something is made with ghee, we can appreciate, this is coming from the cow. And some of us may have a discipline that we won't take any dairy products unless those dairy products are coming from protected cows. So I know some people who will only take dairy products if it's coming from a protected cow, or if we do take dairy that's coming from just commercial, there's different grades, organic, grass-fed, but either way, those cows aren't fully protected. At least we set a sankalpa that, all right, I'm taking this milk, so then to offset that, I'm going to support some cow protection program. Let's say I take some Kelowna milk, or I drink sweet rice at the Sunday feast. All right, we don't have our own farm, and I'll offset it by setting a little bit aside and supporting a cow protection program. And that way there's some remembrance, right? Some remembrance to be an activist to counter the grossest suicidal policy that's happening in the world. And Srila Prabhupada, interestingly, would reference these wars going on, the tension that was going on back in Vietnam. He would see behind what's really going on, and he would trace it back to the violent suicidal policy of so many cows being brutally killed. That because of that intense violence, as a result, Durga, Kali, she's the earth goddess, right? Then how does she respond is that then humans will experience suffering as a collective karmic reaction to this collective violence happening towards these lesser creatures. As Jesus said, what you've done to the least of my creatures, you have done unto me. There's some reference like that in the Bible, right? What you've done to the least of my creatures, you have done unto me. So this is the peacemaker. This is a shepherd. This is the steward. Those who have dominion over others. We might have dominion over our children. Doesn't mean that we eat them for dinner. Doesn't mean that we cut them up and eat them. No, we're stewards. We're caretakers. We're shepherds. Right? And personality is like Lord Jesus, Buddha. And we're going to hear a little reference of Krsna as a cowherd boy coming to show how do we relate to the environment around us. And this is what's so beautiful about recognizing not just the energy of divinity, but the personality. And this personality is just like, especially even for kids, but for us, like running through the fields without the shoes, with your friends, dancing with the gopis, picking fruits, running with the cows, swimming in the water, rivers of nectar. It's just such an amazing environment. It's so personal. And Krishna just takes on this sweet role as a gopa, as a cowherd boy, and showing us this is what we can all enter into through the path of bhakti. Bhakti-mam abhijananti. Krishna says through this process of bhakti, you can enter into that transcendental kingdom. So I'll stop there, and then I'm going to read a little from Krishna book. And like I said, we have these boxes today. There's 60 little sticks in there. And we've just been asking $20 for the box. If you want to give more, you can. And all the profits will be sending. I'm in touch with my friend Nandulal, who's directing the Care for Cows program. And we'll send a little donation this week before the end of Kartik for the Care for Cows program in Vrindavan. So Mother Nidra's in the back, and we have several boxes there. Okay, so if you're ever feeling a little bored in this world and a little restless, and you're wishing the vacations wouldn't end, well, there is a place where it's an eternal weekend. It's an eternal vacation. It's an eternal, ever-fresh place of knowledge, eternality, and bliss. Satchidananda. chapter 15 from Krishna books. So just a couple paragraphs and then we'll close. In this way, Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Balaram, passed the childhood age known as Komara and stepped into the age of Poganda from the 6th year up to the 10th. At that time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year charge of the cows in the pasturing ground. Given charge of the cows, Krishna and Balaram traversed Vrindavan, purifying the land with their lotus footprints. Accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balaram, who is Krishna's brother, Krishna brought forward the cows and played on his flute. Just like Mikey plays that flute so nicely. This is all coming from Krishna, right? The sounds of the flute, the sounds of the mridanga. He entered the forest of Vrindavan, full of vegetables, pasturing grass. The Vrindavan forest was as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. There were chirping birds. How does that sound? What do chirping birds sound like? All right. There were chirping birds and clear water lakes with waters that could relieve one of all fatigue. Sweet-smelling breezes blew always, refreshing the mind and body. Krishna, with his friends in Balaram, entered the forest and, seeing the favorable situation, desired to enjoy the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruits and fresh twigs, bending down to touch the ground as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very much pleased by the behavior of the trees. So Alice in Wonderland, it's definitely like imagination, but when we watched it, I know when I watched it as a kid, I said that would be pretty far out to enter into a realm like that, like an existence like that. It's like, wouldn't that be? Or like when we would watch cartoons, like, ooh, trees talking and walking and moving, and it's like, we don't want that to, I want to be a kid forever, right? I don't want to grow up, I want to be a Toys R Us kid. So where's that coming from? It's coming from because, we have an eternal, childlike, fresh potential to be with Krishna and Balaram and the Gopas and Gopis. That's our constitutional position, actually, waiting to be revealed by the mercy of the holy name and Guru. Krishna saw the touch of the ground, bending down to touch the ground by touching his lotus feet. He was very much pleased by the behavior of the trees, fruits, and flowers, and he began to smile, realizing their desires. Krishna then spoke to his elder brother Balaram as follows: "My dear brother, you are superior to all of us, and your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees, full with fruits and flowers, have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they are trying to get out of the darkness that has obliged them to accept the form of trees. Actually, the trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities." Okay, I'm just going to come forward a little. "My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacocks are dancing before you in great ecstasy. The deer, whose behavior is just like that of the gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection. And the cuckoos, who are residing in the forest, are welcoming you with their joyful, sweet cries." All right, so what are the sweet cries of cuckoos? Those who have been living in India, what are the sweet cries of cuckoos sound like? Or if you've traveled to Hawaii or other places, or if you've had a little bird at home, what are the sweet cries of the cuckoo sound like? You heard them. You've been in forests in India.
I don't know. The American ones sound like cuckoo, cuckoo.
Okay.
That's what I learned as a kid.
And don't feel embarrassed, because when you get to the spiritual world, you have to know all these languages. In order to enter the spiritual world, you have to know how to milk cows, herd cows, and you have to know how to talk with the animals. So don't feel bad if you're trying to mimic these sounds at home. While you're in the shower tonight or washing laundry, you can try these bird coos. And the cuckoos who are residing in the forest are welcoming you with their joyful, sweet cries, because they consider that your appearance in their home is so auspicious. Even though they are trees and animals, these residents of Vrindavan are glorifying you. They are prepared to welcome you to the best of their ability. So this is so beautiful, recognizing how each entity of Vrindavan is welcoming Krishna according to the best of their ability. Bhava Grahi Janardana, Krishna is extracting that essence, right? Oh, you've done this? So happy. So thank you so much for your service. Srila Prabhupada would be like that. They would write a letter to Prabhupada and give a report. And whatever little service, Prabhupada would say, thank you so much for your service. Even if however simple it was. This person's been sweeping, this person's been doing deity worship, this person's been managing, building a temple, whatever they're doing. Thank you for whatever little service you've been doing. It is quite natural for these Vrindavan inhabitants to thus receive a great personality like you. The herbs, the creepers, and plants are also fortunate to touch your lotus feet, and by your touching the twigs with your fingernails, these small plants are also made glorious. As for the hills and the rivers, they too are now glorious because you are glancing at them. Above all, the damsels of Braj, the gopis, are the most glorious because you embrace them with your strong arms, being attracted by their beauty. In this way, Lord Krishna and Balaram began to enjoy the residents of Vrindavan to their full satisfaction, as they herded the calves and cows on the bank of the Jamuna. In some places, Krishna and Balaram were accompanied by their friends. The boys were singing, imitating the humming sound of the drones. Okay, who can share this one? The boys were singing, imitating the humming sounds of the drones. There's a pranayam, right? Brahma, it's a Brahmar pranayam. Brahmari, close the nose, the eyes. You know, in Ashtanga they do. So when you're doing that, if whoever does this Brahmari pranayam, you can remember the boys of Vrindavan singing and imitating the humming sound of the drones and accompanying Krishna and Balaram. So you can actually find a nice picture like this and do your Brahmari pranayam in front of Krishna and Balaram and connect with the sound of the drones. While walking, the boys sometimes imitated the quacking sound of the ducks and swans. Oh, a little louder. They're much louder. The quacking sound of the swans in the lakes. Try it again. Okay. Or when they saw the peacocks dancing. Sometimes you see people downtown walking like that, right? You can just tell them about Krishna and the cowherd boys. They also imitate the peacocks. So this is all there in the spiritual world, nothing missing. But when they saw the peacocks dancing, they imitated them before Krishna. Krishna also moved his neck, imitating the dancing and making his friends laugh. Right? This hasya ras. Hasya means humor. Hasya mukhi, Krishna's face, always smiling, right? On the, whatever's going on in the world, darshan opens, there's Govinda Tribhanga, smiling, playing on his flute. Whatever's happening, he's always giving us that darshan. Hasya mukhi, smiling face. Imitating the dancing. The cows taken care of by Krishna had different names, and Krishna would call them with love. So we have our japa beads with 108 beads. So there's thousands and thousands and thousands of cows, but Krishna had 108 principal cows. And just like we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and then we go to the next beat, Krishna would chant the names of his cows. So Krishna's sadhana, his practice, like we're chanting our japa, chanting the names of Krishna, Krishna's chanting the names of his cows on his mala, on his beads. The cows taking care of Krishna had different names, and Krishna would call them with love. After hearing Krishna calling, the cows would immediately respond by mooing. Right? You lived with cows. How do they sound when they're ready to get milk? After the cows would enjoy the exchange, Krishna would immediately respond by mooing, and the boys would enjoy this exchange to their heart's content. They would all imitate the sound vibrations made by the different kinds of birds, especially the chakoras, the peacocks. Wow, the peacocks now, they have a unique sound.
He's got it. Someone back here has it.
Yeah. Right? They got that. Yeah, everyone's got to do it because they do it in a whole collective. So everyone make the sound of peacocks. Time to wake up. It's Mangalarti, 4 a.m, right? I remember living on the farm, hearing, the lawn clock, the sound of the peacocks. Sometimes they would see the weaker, especially the chakoras, the peacocks, cuckoos, and the bharadwajas. Sometimes they would see the weaker animals fleeing out of fear of the sounds of tigers and lions. All right, we got to hear some tiger. Ishavatar, give us the sound of a tiger or lion. So they would hear the roar of the tigers and lions, and what would they do? They would run away with the cowherd boys. When they felt some fatigue, they would sit down, and Balaram, Krishna's brother, would put his head on the lap of one of the boys just to take rest. And Krishna would immediately come and begin massaging the legs of Balaram. And sometimes Krishna would take a palm fan and fan the body of Balaram. Don't we do that with our sons or daughters? Or vice versa? Sometimes at night, I know like my son comes at night on the couch, he's just chilling, oh, I've been skateboarding all day or sledding, my legs are sore, and then we just, or like they'll come up and start to like maybe massage our calves or feet just to kind of relax at the end of the day. Where's that coming from? It's coming from this sneha, this affection that we're seeing here with Krishna and the cowherd boys. Other boys would sometimes dance or sing while Balaram took rest, and sometimes they would wrestle amongst themselves or jump. When the boys were thus engaged, Krishna would immediately join them, and catching their hands, he would enjoy their company and laugh and praise their activities. When Krishna would feel tired and fatigued, he would sometimes take shelter of the root of a big tree or the lap of a cowherd boy and lie down. When he would lie down with a boy or a root as a pillow, some of the boys would come and massage his legs, and some would fan his body with a fan made from leaves. Some of the more talented boys would sing in very sweet voices to please him. Thus very soon his fatigue would go away. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whose legs are tended by the goddess of fortune, shared himself with the cowherd boys as one of them, expanding his internal potency to appear exactly like a village boy. But despite his appearing just like a village boy, there were occasions when he proved himself to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes men pose themselves as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and cheat innocent people, but they can only cheat. They cannot exhibit the potency of God. So this is the beauty of our Acharya Srila Prabhupada, giving the tattva, the lila, the sweet pastimes, where we can come together and express even the joy of some laughter and sweetness in hearing the lila, and then a gravity of, oh, I'm not Krishna. I can't imitate that. I can't become Krishna. Krishna is Krishna. And we are all parts and parcels. Krishna is the complete whole. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnam Udachyate. And we are those units that are coming from that complete whole. So we have something to look forward to. We're doing this wonderful sadhana. I got a nice forward recently, a memory that a devotee shared where they were hearing Srila Prabhupada in his room, Prabhupada Acharya, for those who have studied Srila Prabhupada's life and got to know him through his memories that people have shared. There was a certain kind of gravity, you can say, in his demeanor. He wasn't, careless with his words. He wasn't frivolous. A certain gravity, joyful, but also there's an element of gravity. They heard some noise in the room, and this devotee, the student, went up and wanted to see is everything okay, and looked through the keyhole, and they saw Prabhupada so effulgent, rolling on the ground, laughing, just like a little kid, just like we're hearing here, just rolling on the ground, and afterwards said, Prabhupada, you were in the room, like everything okay? You were like laughing and rolling on the ground. And Srila Prabhupada said, oh, I was wrestling with Balaram. So here's Prabhupada in his, deha as a spiritual master, probably like in his 70s, and he's rolling on the ground like a little boy. And this disciple got a little glimpse of that. And then Prabhupada, he would never publicly just exhibit that to show that off. It was something very personal. This disciple caught a moment of that. Prabhupada said, oh, I was wrestling with Balaram. So the potential is there for all of us to enter into these beautiful pastimes, and it all begins with hearing. We can take Krishna book, regularly hear these sweet pastimes of Krishna, and side by side, while we're in this world, how do we express our concern? Because sometimes people might feel, well, you get into spiritual life, and then you kind of become callous to the world. You don't really consider what policies are we taking up to express our concern for the environment, for other living entities, for the animals. So in one sense, the bhakti yogis are the greatest activists, because what are they doing? They're countering the grossest suicidal policy, right? They're putting effort, not just to ignore the cows or to protest or to boycott those cows or what the cow gives in the form of milk, not boycotting that, but taking that extra step to protect the cows, right? To counter this suicidal policy. And then as far as bringing benefit for human society, we're all wanting to do something, right? I remember when we were younger, there's a Sierra Club, Earth First, Animal Animal Liberation Front. There was all these dynamic activist groups. We would sign up for them. We would go to protest. We would go to Nevada to protest the nuclear testing on the Shoshone land. So many different things we would do because we were concerned citizens, right? We wanted to do something for the world. So the protection of cows, therefore, is not merely a religious sentiment, but a means to secure the highest benefit for human society. So along with relishing these leelas in that spiritual realm, hearing these pastimes, getting into that meditation of Krishna and the pastimes of Krishna, side by side, a very practical principle that cow protection, honoring Go Mata and the bull, it's a very practical policy for the welfare of the world. Swastyastu Vishvasya, Kalau Prasidatam. Prahlad Maharaj says, may there be good fortune for the entire world at large. So we're all doing our part. We have dozens of wars going on. We have the drug epidemic going on. We have so much violence going on, abuse going on, so much confusion on every level. To the point of it being overwhelming, right? Like, doesn't feel like home here anymore. Where's the home comfort? So while we're here, how can we be instrumental to bring about a revolution in the minds of the misdirected civilization? So this is the path of the yogis, the path of the sadhus, the path of the mystics, the path of the transcendental philosophers, and for all of us, for the bhaktas, whatever little bit we can do has a great effect, and Krishna will recognize that. Just like Ram appreciated the little grains of sand that the rocks that the squirrel or spiders were bringing, as much as he appreciated the boulders that Hanuman was bringing, right? He appreciated it in the same way. So with whatever little expression we're giving in our daily practice, Krishna is recognizing that and reciprocating. And that reciprocation is what will bring that glance of reciprocation of Krishna, especially that glance in the form of the holy name, is what will bring stability and solace to this confusing age of Kali Yuga. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Shri Gopastami Mahotsava ki Jai, Gauraksha ki Jai, Gaura Premanandi